Welcome to the Edo Diaspora talk show. We're here again another week talking about ways to better our community in diaspora and our home state, Edo State. Today we're going to go into a bit of history. On the 27th of August 1991, the then Bendel State was split into two states, Edo and Delta State. If you lived in Benin till 1991 and probably even after, it didn't look like anything happened for me. But today in diaspora, I've woken up and seen that most of the people closest to me, my friends, their parents lived in Edo State, Bendel State, their parents died in Edo State. All they have, all they know is Edo, all they know is Bendel State. But that split has sort of put them in the middle. They're neither here or there. All their friends are from Edo State. They've never moved to Delta State. All their connections are Edo people. And it seems like there's something to resolve there. To discuss this with me this evening, I have somebody from Delta State. Sir, what is your name?
My name is Robert Okoli.
Robert Okoli.
Yeah, Okoli.
Okoli.
Yes.
Robert, good to have you here. And we have a Benin man, Mr. Austin Emoma. Thank you. And we have Josephine. Thank you very much. Let me start with the man from Warrior. Mr. Okoli, when you were told that you will be going to Delta State, a new state was created, did you feel elated, overjoyed, or did you feel a sense of resentment?
Sense of resentment, because I had always known Benin as the capital, and we were close to the Benin people. I used to do my holidays in Benin. So Benin was out, and yeah, I didn't quite understand it. The capital is now Sasa. It doesn't feel too right.
It doesn't feel right from your side.
Yes.
I want to ask Mr. Emoma, a Benin man. Mr. Emoma, when they I don't know, first of all, we were younger 34 years ago. But for you as a Benin person, did you feel this was something is wrong about this?
We have to look at it in two ways. Division is always having a big disadvantage on humanity, but in the other way, there's still advantage in it. But you see, like Nigeria as a country is still developing. So, and these are the things we should be expecting, like this splitting division and trying to put things right is still a thing that will still be there and it will still continue. The reason is that, okay, now it's true, like there was a time that we were just only 4 divisions in Nigeria, Midwestern, Northern, and South, and people bed. But now, after a while, they now divided it to 12 states, and then from 12 now, then that's during the Bendel time. Yeah, true, it's good. But we should understand that when Bendel State was there were some part of Nigeria that were not even knowing what was happening in Edo State because of the largeness of that state. Okay. So then that is not something we should encourage. Even most of the people at Isoko, Isoko is close. The Izon area. Sometimes we'll be having public holiday. They wouldn't even know if there's public holiday happening because the communication was not flowing because of the largeness and the magnitude of the state. So cutting it or splitting it into 2 is fine, because when you cut something into 2, now you have now drawn a community together and to a closer center where they can always communicate and do things right. So then that is one. But I can believe now that what those Shekiri people, not Shekiri, sorry, the Izon people was having the deficit at that time now is a part of their enjoyment this time. Now that the system has now splitted and then they got more advantage closing to the government.
I like what you say. You think it's a good thing. Josephine, I want to ask your opinion first, because you're from Bendel State, and then we've had a few friends, few people send messages in from Delta State now about how they feel. For you, do you think it was done, according to Mr. Emoma, is done for development? My friend here, Mr. Okoli, say he has resentment. Do you think it was done well? And do you think it's still being done well if he says we're done?
Well, there were from what he said, yes, I agree. But however, if you have to flip the other side of the coin, you know, emotionally, a lot of people were torn by that because community, we had already formed communities with very close friends, and then that law came into play, and then everybody, I remember my very, very close friend, she had to come hide in her house. She said, I can't see myself going back to where did she come from? I think Delta State or something like that. So they had to come to our house. We had to, you know, make them stay in our house because she was schooling there at the time. You know, so there were a lot of emotional traumas involved in that splitting of the state. However, like he said, yes, it brought some communities together. You know, areas where they were very desolate, they don't even know what's happening. So now splitting it brought that kind of like, yes, exactly. You know, so
I like before we even I have here some things I've written down. I think it's spilled over. If you come to the diaspora today, I have many friends that we from Edo State are still the only friends they know. They've never been to Delta State, their family house is still there, their parents lived and died in Edo State. Even after the split, they didn't go. But some have sent opinions. Josephine, those opinions are with Josephine. So if we take the opinions one at a time, just to refresh us, and then we can see how.
Okay, so this is from Chuma Urai from London. He said the effect at the beginning was that of confusion and uncertainty. Many civil servants knew that they would have to move to a new state. This meant moving to an unknown environment as well as starting again there. Those with kids in schools had to look for schools good enough for their kids to continue their education at the same standard. Those who had partners in other areas of work affected by the split had to make a decision. This was especially difficult as there were uncertainties as to whether they would get jobs or not. It took a long time for families to settle and start a life in a new location.
Mr. Mama, I want to direct that to you because you said it's a good thing that it will continue. We're 4 divisions and now we're the problem stated there. Do you think the government has tackled it before they start splitting states?
Yes, there's something we should understand among us. One, we should learn how to adapt to a new environment and a new system. When we came to this country, there was no particular person or no idea of what was happening here. The longer we continue to stay, the more we continue to understand their system and adapt to their system. And they said, when you are in Rome, you behave like a Roman. So now, when a state is divided or anything is divided, it's just like we live in a house, in an apartment or in a house. We don't just leave the state of a house on the way we met it. If you buy a new house, what do? You do renovation. So if you get a new state, then you get new offices, then you put things together and then get the system running. But the land we live is the same land we are. Is it not the same Nigeria?
Hold on. I like your point here. You from Delta State, right? You heard the complaint just now that it's hard to settle and it's still going on. When you hear Mr. Momo, he said you just moved. Is it possible? Is it possible like that? Is it possible to, you're a top civil servant in Bendel State, your children go to good schools in Bendel State, you have all these things set up in Bendel. Delta State is just created. It doesn't have the same standard. It doesn't have anything that resembles what you're doing what you've been doing for years in one state.
Yes.
I disagree with that because I live in Warri. I stay in Warri. I was in Azefuru for a long time at the airport road area there for some time. So, but I was born in Benin, raised in Benin. I attended Benin Technical College and all that things. When I got to Warri, even the life there was even much more like a bit socialized than even Benin I live. I'm a Benin man. So, but you see, as I said, I don't see anything different there. There was no good school in Edo that was better than the one in Warri. Even the one in Warri was even, some of them was even much more standard than even the one in Edo.
Not in 1991?
No, well, it should be like 85, 90, yeah, between 80s and...
They split it in 1991.
Yeah,
so.
well, after that division, I don't know what may have occurred there, but however, it was still Nigeria and we can adapt to every system. Okay, taking it to Asaba, I don't know, but if they have left it in Warri as a central place, I think the system and the narrative would have been different But however, we just have to adapt to a new system.
Okay.
I think that coming to London diaspora and all, we were younger than then. But I remember now thinking of it, the permanent secretaries in Benin, Delta, and Bendel State, there were quite a number of them. And they were settled in their jobs. So that destabilizing them, going to, and the children and all, it's quite a big, it's bigger than just you traveling and looking for greener pasture. So they had to go to, even till now, I think many of those civil servants are not really settled in Asaba.
I want to say another thing that I've noticed. In the diaspora, you know, Edo State is so cosmopolitan. Everybody that come live there, Yoruba, Igbo, and they speak the language. There's a man in Canada, he's a Yoruba man. He speaks Benin better than even Benin people. And he went to join a Benin association and they refused him because they said he's not from Edo State. This evening, since I've been here, this evening, somebody speak Benin more than me. And they're not from, you understand, they're not Benin, you understand, from Edo State. So we have come and even exported the problem, Mr. Wama, and I'm not facing it.
Yeah.
We are now here where we have people from that say technically they should be from Delta State, but everything about them, they are from Edo State. And Edo State is seeming that we don't want to accept this. We don't want to go and meet them. We don't want to accept them in. Are you aware of it?
I think that is. I don't know if I have to call that discrimination or. I don't want to use the word semitism.
No, you still.
But you see, like, why wouldn't someone accept discriminate against his brother? I don't see any reason why someone should be discriminating against his brother. Firstly, we are African. That is one thing, and we are still talking of the same state, and we are talking of the same culture. Okay, now it doesn't matter. Let me tell you the disadvantage we are having in the south that the Northerners are using to dominate us today. Every Northerners city is separated into two to become a state. Now, when it comes to the voting in the House of Commons or in Senate, you see every little state there, Kogi, whatever they call it, the other one, they now have one vote. The entire Edo vote, that at the end of the day, they will not have 12, 14. And the whole Edo State will have only 5 states. And they will vote. Then, whenever they're not talking of democracy for a vote to take the lead, then who will lead and who will win is the North. So this is the reason why today, changing constitution, changing everything, they will tell you at the end of the day, we have to vote. And when they vote, the Northerners don't want constitution to be changed because the states are now vote with one vote each, and they've dominated the one from the south. So then, is that how we want to continue to lead?
Okay.
No, we can't continue like this. We must adapt. We must learn how to accept each other, and we must adapt to a new environment.
Okay, I agree with you, Josephine. I'm going to come back again to get another opinion from people who have migrated from Bendel State to Edo State. Let us see if this thing is been smooth.
Okay, this is from Obuks Ojehomo from Manchester. He said, overall, the impact of the state split is best understood in context. It affected people differently depending on their stage in life, professional situation, and where they lived within former Bendel State. From a boundary and asset sharing perspective, the transition was actually quite divisive. As someone from a community in Delta State that shares a direct boundary with Benin City, I was aware of the tension and the disagreements that came with defining the new state lines. From the angle of opportunity, I was genuinely hopeful. The creation of Delta State felt like a long overdue chance for more equitable access to national resources and a way to bring development closer to communities that had previously felt overlooked.
Okay, I would say I would direct this to you as a Delta man. Have you seen development as a result of creation of Delta State that wouldn't have happened if they didn't create Delta State?
No. Delta seems to be going down. Worry.
Yeah.
Development is now zero. So there's no development going on. Worry. And the shell has moved out and all the companies, so what is happening? And everybody's going to Asaba. Well, Asaba too is not really developing.
Mr. Woman, you move from Warri to Asaba. This is projected that there will be projected development in Delta State as a result of the split. Have you seen that development?
African is not even developed as we speak. So then, you see, there is something we should understand is we have to get that patience in our mind and then keep that patient. So now, it's true that, as I said, the Warri would have been a preferable place if they've asked me. But you should understand that when Babangida was in power, Marian Babangida was from Delta and from Asaba, so she diverted that central to Asaba, which wouldn't have been at all, because if you look at that state, Asaba is on the outskirts. Warri would have been, because Warri has already developed before that division. But the thing is that when this is what Nigeria is, and then what politics can always do. So now they took it to Asaba and then put it in Asaba. Now they are dragging every tooth and nail to get Asaba developed. But that wouldn't have been. But how? Okay, for instance, there are people from Warri too who are in the house, house of a speaker, or in the state house, that has to talk about their state and their constituency. So now these are the people who have to also work with the government or the state governor to make sure that this goes to the Warri and then keep Warri as it used to be. So then if they are quiet because of money or belly infrastructure or whatever they call it, and they are not talking, they are not speaking out, and then the Warri can be dropping and falling, and the nation as you shouldn't have been. Okay. So then this is not people's fault, this is not split fault. As I said, the northerners, every cities are even being splitted. They are houses, but they didn't see themselves separated. One, religion kept them together, the language still kept them together, and they just keep going, and they are dominating us with vote, one city, one state, and they keep going, and they refuse us to talk about the constitution today.
Let me ask. You see, there's two things here. Splitting the states for political reasons is one thing. Splitting the state without thinking that how will people settle in the new state, is another thing. In the north, they could just be splitting state for political reasons. In the south, I don't think it's possible. And it looks as if that's what they tried between Edo and Delta. And now we have people here who are our brothers and sisters, and we've been separated even if we're not playing politics.
You see, like, as I said, we are there taken to Cameroon. No, we are not taking to Mali.
No,
we are not taking to Mali.
No.
Oh, so
but we have differences.
No, it doesn't matter. Listen, there's no fence across the border. You have to pay toll gate to cross from one state to another.
But
the free movement is still there.
We speak different languages. We have different ways of living.
That different language. Nigeria has 25 different languages or dialects. Yeah. So now, are you taking that out of the culture or the system? No.
But why do you separate them? Because when we other Bendel State,
that separation will always be there and will still remain there, because the separation has no effect at all to the system. The separation of cities and creating new states it doesn't affect anyone. It's just the same thing that is affecting us now within the state, like Edo State. The Orion local government is the biggest local government I've ever seen. And today, they refuse to split it because it's like, oh, don't split it. I don't know where that thing is coming from. Don't split it, because when you split it now, the culture will be separated. And then, look, listen, now we are suffering it. We are suffering it because when other local governments are getting gifts or support or anything from the state, Orion will get it, and even as big as Orion, sometimes it will not even get to some area.
Okay.
So is that what we want to start living on or suffering?
No, I'm saying they should do it properly, but let me get another opinion. Just who else have you got there? Because let's talk to the Delta man.
I've got Mr. Joseph Omoeba from East London.
Okay.
Why the division of Bendel State into Edo-Delta had some strategic advantages in governance, the identity recognition and unspoken consequences have been deeply felt. A. Cultural divergence and identity. 2. Politics. The split formally separated two major ethnic blocks, the Edo-speaking people and the various ethnic groups of the Niger Delta, Urobo, Isoko, Ijo, Ishekiri, and Aneoma, Igbo, among others. While this helped each group assert a stronger sense of identity, today both states are grappling with internal identity politics, especially Delta State, where rotation of power amongst ethnic zones remains a sensitive issue. And then he goes on to say, erosion of shared history. Bendel State was a symbol of unity for diverse people, with its delusion and shared narrative has eroded younger.
You see now they're not having peace in Delta State. You understand?
Younger generations increasingly lack the memory of that ununified identity, e.g. the famous Bendel Insurance Football Club, Bendel High School competitions, and Bendel Pride, dislocation and internal state rivalries. Families and communities that once lived under a common administrative unit now often find themselves navigating inter-state differences. For example, intermarriages between the two groups used to flourish under Bendel, but now substitute rivalries now influence perceptions, politics, resource allocations, migration across state lines continues, but with new bureaucratic barriers.
I like what's his name?
This is Joseph Omar.
Let me ask the Delta man. If I stayed today, I would say maybe work in progress, but it hasn't worked. The split from Bendel State to Edo State has not been a success. It was done in 1991. 34 years on. I don't know what we're waiting for. People are getting displaced. You talk.
I think that split, now I'm thinking about it, I don't really know much, but I think that Edo kept most of the good things. The university, Uniben, UBTH, all the good schools, federal schools, Edo College.
Benin was the capital there.
Yeah. So now I'm thinking about it. It looks as if Delta hasn't really got to the same level
that Bendel State was.
Yes. I don't know if they've created many head-to-head institutions.
Thank you. And for you agree with that? That after 34 years, what else are we waiting for to see the advantage of creating Delta State?
There's a lot of advantage, and more advantage are still coming up. And as I said, we have to be patient, and then that state is a new state. It doesn't matter now 34 now.
I know, Bebolo 4 months is the new government. That's 34 years.
The reason why I'm saying that, because let me tell you, there are some points you people are not speaking up there. The point is that as an African country or in Nigeria, third world countries, if we don't have these little states and then use that process to develop area, we will see that most of our area will be lacking, and while just little place will be developed. And then in that case, you will now see that the disadvantage will be huge and much more bigger than the advantage. Now you are talking of only Benin, and the whole big Bendel State. Only Benin and Benin. That is why some areas are not developed today in Delta State. But now that we now make it Delta, so there are the allocation coming to Delta State should be enough now to start developing some rural area and urban area in the Delta State there, while Edo State still have to be working on their own. So this is just an improvement of development. We should work on that, and we should see that as a bigger advantage than the culture we are just talking about. Culture is not helping.
I like something that we're finding out since we started this show. You know, when we spoke about like this particular issue, they've done the split, but they haven't done it well. Earlier on, a couple of programs ago, we spoke about the Edo State governor and his actions. He has carried out the action, but he hasn't done it. You understand? He hasn't done it. He's demolishing people's houses just to send a message. Is it now like, okay, it's doing it well? Is it doing it well? That is the problem. You know, you split Delta State, do it well. You break people's houses, do it well. You understand? Is that where we, is that where we stay? Because if they can't do it well, they shouldn't do it at all.
Yeah, so that is why your next studio interview or next talk have to be on how do we get this thing developed. How do we contribute to this development? What are the things to put together to make this development unique for the people, so it can get to the people and then make the area useful to the people living, or the inhabitants living in that area. So these are the things now we have to be talking about, because if we keep talking of culture and keep talking of the language and splitting that happened 34 years ago, are we going forward or we are going
But
back?
it's not done, but it's not.
That's what you are talking about here now. You are talking about the split that has done 35 years ago and the disadvantage has done to people. Are you not telling us that we should go back to that splitting again, or going back to Bendel State again, or are we talking of how to develop it and to make it useful for the people?
What I'm saying is, like you said, if they're going to split more states, as you said, we were first 4, we became 16, and now we're like this. If they're going to split more states, they should look at the ones that they've split and say, we haven't done it well. We cannot be doing all this just for political gain. We're not thinking of the people. We're here today, many friends. In fact, somebody sent me a message to say, I am from Delta State now, but I'm 100% Edo. I'm Benin. My parents built their house there. My mom died there, buried there. My dad died there, buried there. I've never been to Delta State one day in my life. So before they start splitting another state just for political gain, then you have to think about the people who reside in that state. How would they? Is it necessary? But hey, we have another show, and I want to thank you again. I want to come to Delta State myself. I've been once, but I've never been with this sort of knowledge to observe. Have you been? Are you scared you won't be welcome?
I'll be welcome.
You live in Delta State. Did you ever have any problem?
No. There was no problem then. There was no problem. Anyway, that time it was still Bendel State, so
You never been to worry.
No, I've never been. But do they say anything to people from Edo State to say, like if you go to Ghana now, they might say to you, you people drove us away, you understand? So for you don't get that.
They worry, they don't even see themselves as worry or Benin. It's just like everyone's just speak together. It's just that you have to just learn the language of show, you know, that you get to learn now. You can't do that to me now, brother. No, don't be like that. You know, their language. You have to get that language too. So that now will now make you very fast integrated. Yeah. So outside that,
is a fact of life.
Yeah, that pigeon.
But the problem I'm having with your analysis, you say you should be more patient.
Yes. When I mean patient is that is why I said we have to now talk about how the development, how we can facilitate the development to make it unique for the inhabitants.
Yes.
It's not, we shouldn't be talking of the things that have happened 34 years.
Mr.
It
has not settled 34 years.
Yes, now, so let your next interview be like, this is what we have now as a big disappointment that is not working out, but how do we put it right?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. It's been an enjoyable show. We'll be back here next week talking about ways to better our community in diaspora and our home state. It's Lace My Man, it's Mr. Austin the Moma, it's Mr. Okoli, and Joseph. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This abroad we beg, no be smarty, no be smarty, no be smarty. We see things every day. Cause a lot involved, all of what she told.